In today's video, I want to talk with you about how you can find and process vocals for your track. But first, let's get hydrated.
This is a glass of water, colorless, tasteless. It contains 100 gamma of LSD 25.
There are many cool sources where you can find vocals, and my favorite one is YouTube. Of course, you need to be a bit careful with all that copyright stuff. What I would recommend you is either you take something which is copyright free, or you find like really old footage, because usually nobody will care about that. And that said, as you can see, there are many things taken from the internet, and there are many more cool examples. So if you want to know more, then check out, for example, this one, which I won't play here for copyright reasons, and leave me a note in the comment in which track you find that one. There's many cool stuff on YouTube. What I would recommend you to follow science channels, or to look into cartoons, which is probably the most copyright critical thing. If you want to search for a little bit more specific things, I will link to this site in the description box below. And here you'll find like a lot of cool audio sites where you can find audio, for example, like from NASA, or here Internet Audio Archive, where you can find a lot of weird and cool stuff. So that's another source I would say you could dig into and find cool stuff. And the third option obviously is record your own voice. Then you need to take care that you are in a room which doesn't have too much reverb. I heard like all the rappers out there are recording their vocals in their closets, but just check that you don't have a room where you kind of like have a lot of reverb, and make your environment very noise free. So put like put your mic far away from like all that fans from the laptop, and take a time on the day where it's not too loud outside. Usually mornings or evenings are good, so that's quite a good option as well. But usually if you record your own vocals, I find you need to process them a little bit more than if you take something out of the internet, because it's already recorded somewhere professionally. Usually also it's already processed. Text-to-speech is another really cool resource for vocals, because most people don't like their own voice, including me, and including really big artists who have cool voices actually. And with those text-to-speech, you can choose kind of like how it should sound. There are different ones from Google, from IBM. There's a demo version which you can use, but also they have a free amount of conversions you can use. I think here it's like 10,000 words or characters or whatever, something you will never need. Each month you can also register, and then I think you can use that fully legal. But check this out. I think it's also pretty cool. What I do is I usually leave the speed here at normal. I mostly take English or French speaking persons, and usually female. I find sound a little better, but it's all up to your choice.
If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon.
And then all you need to do is you need to go into your DAW, and there you need an interface with loopback. Here on I have a Moto M4. You can set the loopback channel, so it's basically recording everything from your screen. If you don't have an interface with loopback, there's also like software like Audio Hijack, where you can basically take the audio from your browser, or maybe you can even download that text-to-speech at some web pages. And all you then do is you hit here solo, record, go on record and play.
If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon.
And then we get our amazing vocal here, and then we can do a lot of processing to it. Once we have a cool vocal found in the internet, there's usually a lot of noise in the old recordings. On this website, audio.ai, you can remove background noise, or you can also use programs like Adobe Audition to remove noise. What's always usually good if you are removing noise, if you have kind of like a clean part of the recording, some silence, and then with most programs you can capture that silence, and then you got only the noise, and it makes it easier for the programs to remove stuff. So if you record something out of the internet or download it, then it's always good if you have some leeway, because it makes it easier to get rid of the noise. There's another cool website which I use regularly, is vocalremover.org. It's a donation-based website, so if you use it, please also donate. It works really, really well, because if you take something out of YouTube, it usually has a lot of background music, which you definitely don't want to have in your track. And this one really removes like 99.9% of that. And you get quite usable vocals. If there's some little rest, that will usually anyways blend in with all the processing. So don't worry too much about that. Get like really clean source material before you get it into your DAW. I want to show you quickly how much the difference is once we removed the noise from the vocal. So this is the original vocal.
I couldn't possibly tell you. It's here. Can't you feel it? This whole room, everything is in color, and I can feel the air. I can see it. I can see all the molecules.
And once we put it through this AI website, which removes all the background noise, and apparently it also made it mono. That's actually also a tip I have. You can also bring down your vocals to mono. You can do this really easy also with the utility tool with mono, or you can choose one of the sides and then put mono and basically take the side which is better sounding. So sometimes you have a little bit more noise maybe on one side. But check out how much difference the noise removal does to this vocal, and it will make it so much easier to kind of like fit it in your track once you removed all the stuff you don't need.
Well, I couldn't possibly tell you. It's here. Can't you feel it? This whole room, everything is in color, and I can feel the air. I can see it. I can see all the molecules.
Amazing, or? That's quite impressive. And the same goes for the other application I showed you, which removes the background music. It also works quite well. It's a little bit, there's a little bit left over in that one, but definitely a better starting point than if you just cut out the vocal. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, but you're interested in Psytrance production tutorials, then subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon, then you will get notified on every new video. And now let's look into it. So once I have processed this, I get it into my DAW and I chop out the bits I want to have. So as you can see, I have like a vocals raw track here and one where I put the vocals in. So this one I use more kind of like as a bank so that I can search for all the pieces I've selected for my track, and then I bring it in here. And then I usually go with the processing. I do most of my processing with those warp modes. You need to experiment a bit, so you can stretch the timing, and then you can, for example, gate it here with this one. Also, tones and texture is pretty cool and complex. Doesn't do so much change, but sometimes also good. You can also pitch it up and down and all those things. So that's what I would do next. I would bring it to kind of like the raw psychedelic texture I want to have it, but I leave my vocals, most of them very unprocessed, so maybe let's take a look how I did it here. So as you can hear in this track, I didn't do too much vocal processing. In my other track, Technology from Space, I did more on the vocal processing. I will also link up here to this tutorial about vocal processing that you can learn more about this topic. But here I mostly went with the sends. So you can see the sends change here. So on this one is like a lot of reverb. And this one has a lot of delay, so quite simple actually. I didn't put too much into here, and this one I just warped in complex mode to and stretched it by the factor 2. So that's basically all I did here, what goes into changing kind of like the sound of the vocal or putting effects on it. But I want to show you a bit more about how to get it like in a place that you can use it in the track. The first thing is I always put a low cut on it. So you don't want to have any frequencies below 100 Hertz. And I also would try how much you can cut out until it kind of like sounds thin. So check that out. What I sometimes do, and I didn't do in this track, is that I kind of like boost the area like 2K, maybe sometimes 1K or 3K. That's kind of like where you have like a lot of vocal textual information in the voice. And what you also can do is you can increase the highs a bit, and this will give you a bit more clarity. Depends all on how your vocal is. So depending on what you want, if you want to give more clarity, you boost here. If you find that you cannot understand the words so good, then you boost more here in the middle. And if you want to get it kind of like a closer and warmer feeling, you boost here. But it's not like a rule. And in this vocal, I didn't had the feeling that I need to do a lot. So I kind of like left this away. Then the next thing, what I do is compression. About compression, you can, if you don't have like too much differences, then you can just run the compressor on the vocal. Here I went actually quite aggressive, but usually I wouldn't go too aggressive on vocals. But before you let the compressor run here, it's always a good practice to chop the vocal and solve things with volume first. I want to show this quickly. Also, here I was a bit lazy until now, but usually I also bring the vocals that you have them like starting with the grid. And this is something you do after the processing, because the processing might change the length if you work with the warp modes. And then you chop it up and you have it like really starting on the grid. And then maybe we see here that this is quite a silent section on the vocal. What I would do here is just boost it here with the gain, so that we might come like this, because then it feels kind of like more natural as you're boosting kind of like, you don't want to kind of like get a complete sausage and boost everything, because then you will miss the attacks and stuff of the words. But in some occasions you might need to do that. So let's check, for example, this one. If I boost up here, then you see that we have this here, and this is something I would rather than solve here in the envelopes, so that you go here in the clip gain, and then you put a few points basically where it's very loud, and then you go down a bit. And that way your compressor hasn't to work so much, and you have a little bit more control over that. You can also see it here in the gain reduction, so you basically can let the vocal run. 440. And then you see the gain reduction. And if you have something really crazy here, then you just bring it down with here this envelope. Then, as mentioned, I think it's really important to establish kind of a rhythm sometimes. It always depends also on the vocal. If you want to go more like a stutter game, then it becomes really, really important to get you on the grid. And therefore I will also show you a little trick how you can do this. But if you have more like a sentence, then I usually look for like a mixture, so that, for example, like important words or where the phrase starts is on the grid, and I mostly move all the stuff on the grid, but I'm not going too robotic about that. So that's something probably you will need to find out what you like, if you want to have like really straight on a grid, which gives you a kind of like nice, a little bit robotic maybe feeling, or if you want to kind of like keep the natural flow of the vocal more, that's something which is up to you to decide. If you have a lot of hiss in it, then you also need a de-esser in your chain to remove all that sh and sounds. Also in this vocal, I wasn't really needing this. Sometimes I put like another multiband compressor and compressor on it. So you find this one here. Multiband compression, you just drag it in, you shift a little bit the split frequencies, and then you play a bit around here. Those I I mostly don't touch much with vocals. What's actually a cool thing is try a few different ones. Sometimes maybe this one, for example, could already work, or vocal control. So try a few different ones and take the best one to start, and from there you change a few settings, and then we compress it a little bit again later. It's like 2 dBs here. So in general, vocals have like a lot of dynamics, and we want to control that a bit. Especially if you use the vocals here while kicking bass and everything is running, then you need to be a bit more careful about that. If you use it like in the intro, I think you can live a little bit more dynamic, but here it needs to fight against all the other sounds, and there you need to get it a little bit more stable. In the end, when you have done that, I would bounce this whole thing to audio again, and then you can still see if you have some crazy peaks here, and check again if you can fix something with volume, EQ, and compression. Always in this order, I would say, like first volume, then EQ, and then compression. And now I want to show you a last little trick. If you put your vocal into a simpler, so for example, we would take this one, consolidate it. I have created the MIDI channel here and drag it into a simpler. And now you can go here onto slice mode, and you have slice by transient. And then you can basically either take like trigger or gate mode, and then you are able to trigger your vocal with MIDI. As mentioned, I would do this more with the processed vocal, so basically I would export it like after the whole chain has run here, so that you don't have that crazy fluctuations in volume. And then you can start here in C1, and it will play the vocal for how long you put this, until it reaches that point here, and then you can play different bits and make some nice stuttering game. Or you could do the same with cutting this vocal here and placing all the stuff by hand, which I like actually more than doing this, because I feel this is way more controllable. If you cut it by hand, a little trick I use is to color the bits. So for example, then I know this, and you can also name the words. It makes it a little bit more easy maybe to move stuff. But all in all, this is actually quite easy to do the processing. My advice is, if you want to use the vocal and really want to understand what it is about, then I wouldn't go too crazy about like pitching it up, down, and putting a million effects plugins on it. Some Psytrance tracks actually have like those vocals, which kind of like you don't really listen to it, but it has something trippy to it, because so in the background, so there I think you can go a bit wild there. I hope that answers most of your questions how to integrate vocals into your track. If you want to go deeper into processing the vocal and making like really psychedelic, also watch my other video on vocal processing. And if you have done any questions left, then leave me a comment below, or if you have seen some cool processing, you can also send me and maybe I dig into it.